just after my 18th birthday, I got kicked out of my parents' house, and shortly after, I went to go and be homeless, and I was living in my car, traveling around, and essentially just no friends, no family, all by myself, just living in my car, driving around, traveling, and I spent most of the winter living like that. And weirdly enough, this is gonna sound outrageous, but weirdly enough, this experience was the best experience of my life. I felt the most peace, the most contentment in life. I felt the most purpose and fulfillment. And so that begs the question, how come despite suffering, physically, mentally suffering, I was the happiest I ever was in my life? Hello everybody, welcome back to another one of these videos where we play Minecraft and talk about life. I'm very sick right now, so you can probably tell in my voice. My voice is very nasally, and I'm sniffling a lot, so I apologize for that in advance. But in this video, I wanted to talk about how suffering is actually kind of a good thing. I know it's easier said than done once you're out of it, but recently I've longed for suffering. I've actually wanted to suffer in life. I found the love of my life about 7-8 months ago. A lot of coincidences on how we met, and essentially I have no doubt she is the one, and I live with her now, and we're planning on getting married soon, and my life is going great. Of course, I still have issues, I still have mental health things, I still have struggles, and I'm still adapting to this lifestyle and everything, but overall, my life is really good. I have comfort, I have nothing to worry about, and that's not actually something that I want. I actually would rather have no money and have it be all my own money. You see, there is a very strong sense of peace when, just think about it this way. Think about it this way. If I had very little money, and I was actually struggling financially, but it was the money I made myself, versus having a lot of money at my disposal and a lot of resources with family and all that, but none of it is mine, and there's a little bit of shame there, a little bit of guilt. At that point, it's like, wouldn't that feel worse than just struggling yourself and trying to work your stuff out? Obviously, it would, right? There's a thing called instant gratification and delayed gratification. Instant gratification is the thing that feels good in the moment, or is pleasurable or enjoyable or beneficial in the moment, but long term it will impact you negatively. And it's kind of like a short-term fix, a short-term burst of enjoyment or pleasure or gratification or some kind of benefit to you personally. Delayed gratification is, now stick with me here, these are very important terms. Delayed gratification is the act of basically the opposite, in which you do something in the moment that might not be super fun. Maybe it's going to the gym, lifting the heavy weight, it's uncomfortable, you're going for a run at 5 in the morning, you take a cold shower. These are not fun things that you want to do. None of us want to actually do that, especially if we're not used to that lifestyle. Then we're less inclined to want to do that because we're not conditioned to it. And so we're not going to want to do that, and yet those are the things that long term are going to provide happiness and contentment in life, and peace in life, and joy in life, and gratitude in life, which is a very good thing to have for your mental health. And so these things are delayed gratification. And when you live a life of comfort, or a life of very little stress, at least stress that you can control and you can work towards and improve, then you're actually hurting yourself mentally and overall, I guess, as a result, physically and spiritually as well. The closest I ever felt to God, and the most happy I was, the most grateful I was, the most sensitive I was, let me tell you, when you're close to God and you're living this lifestyle, and for some weird reason you just feel super close to God because you're far away from the world and you're very detached from the world and the darkness in the world and the responsibilities and darkness and the anxieties of the world and the external validation, the people around you who are not good voices in your head. When you don't have that and you're so much closer to God as a result, you feel on a weird level so spiritually sensitive. You will cry at a sad video. You will feel emotions stronger than you ever have before. You will think clearer. You will feel God more. You will be more grateful. You will wake up now that literally you will wake up and see the sunrise or the sunset, and you will be more grateful. You will have more emotions for the sunset and sunrise when you see it, when you're in this mode, which not many of us are in, especially for even for a short time frame, but especially for a long time frame. The thing is, when I was living this life, when I was struggling, when I was homeless, when I had nobody, no friends, no family, I was so far removed, I was lonely. I'm not saying these were good things. I'm not saying this was good for me. Isolation, especially for a long enough time, is very detrimental to us. We're not meant to be lone wolves. We are meant to be with other people. We were built that way, to be in tribes. And so I'm not saying this is good or beneficial. However, I was closer to God because I was further away from the world, further away from sin, further away from darkness, further away from all the voices, further away from temptation, further away from just the evil in the world. Because I was on my own, I was separated, I was isolated, I was in nature all the time. I wasn't on social media very much. I was just in my own little world. Kind of like how we were meant to be. Kind of like how we were meant to live. And so, as a result, I felt so good. And any anxiety I did have, any stress I did have, any worry I did have was actually positive because it gave me purpose. I felt anxious and sad very often during this time period. I felt lonely, but it was very meaningful suffering. I remember late nights I would be praying to God, and I'd be crying and sobbing and miserable, and I'd be so depressed, and like I would feel pain in my chest from how sad I was. And yet, I felt a peace because I knew that I had God in the midst of that. And I knew that, like, this is worth, like, for some weird reason, like, I just can't explain it, but I always felt better, and I always look back fondly on those memories of me crying out to God, suffering in the arms of God, in the arms of praying, in the arms of being by myself, under the guy, being by myself. I felt way better, and I look more fondly on those memories than I do when I'm suffering and I'm with other people and I'm in the world and I'm able to use more things as a cope. Now, this is a big thing. When we're in the world, when we're of the world, when we're in the world, when we're around other people, it is so much easier to mask the suffering and the struggle that we get from our daily lives and our work. It's so much easier to numb it with junk food, with weed, with zin, nicotine, cigarettes, with lust, doing things with your partner, doing things by yourself, watching corn, and not that kind of corn. And so it's so much easier to live that life when you're in the world and living a normal life in the world. It's so much easier to do that. And when you do those things, you are numbing your soul to the world. You are numbing your soul to the things of life. And so the more you use that as a cope for your terrible life or your struggles or your anxiety, the more you use that as a cope for your anxiety or your stress or your depression, the more you actually become depressed and numb to life as a result. And then it's a never-ending cycle. And then sometimes you get better and you overcome it and you don't do it as much, but then you fall right back into it. When you're living away from the world and isolated, you don't have that as much. And so that's why I felt so much peace, because I was suffering. I was suffering mentally, suffering spiritually, looking for an answer. And yet, the only thing I could do was cry out to God. I couldn't watch corn. I couldn't eat junk food. I mean, I could have, but I couldn't. I had an empty stomach, and I wasn't pleasuring myself. Instead, when I was suffering, I felt it. I embraced it. I felt my emotions, and I went to God and cried to God and prayed to God. And that was so much more delayed gratification than if I were to just cope and eat junk food and watch corn and, forget about it. Drink alcohol. No. Yes, it feels good in the moment. Yes, it fixes your problem in the moment, but long term, it doesn't make it better. That's why I miss being homeless. That's why I miss suffering. That's why I miss struggling in life in that way. Because all I had was God. All I had was prayer. All I had was myself, my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own journal, all of that. I didn't have anything else. That was it. And for some strange reason, I look fondly on those times because it was so much more memorable, so much more fulfilling of a struggle, fulfilling of a depression than I've ever felt in my life. Especially living a normal life, life of comfort, life of ease of access, having a home, having people that love me, which I'm not saying any of these things are bad. I'm not saying if you have someone that you love that loves you, you are so blessed. You are so, like, take gratitude for that if you can. At least force it if you can. If you're not super grateful or you don't feel super grateful right now, just force the gratitude for it. Because that's good. That's always good. And so, like, these are things to think about. Um, in the pursuit of a normal life, of a successful life, of a convenient life, we lose ourselves and we lose God and we lose peace and contentment in life. We lose who we are. We lose how we are when we are confronted with these situations, and these anxieties, and these stresses, and these worries, and these, like, periods of sadness. When we don't get to feel that, when we don't get to put that up to God, but also be left to ourselves with that, we don't really know who we are. That's why a lot of people, when they go to prison, they really find out who they are in life, because they're forced to confront those feelings and those thoughts and what they did and the struggles, and they're forced to confront that and be with that 24/7. That's why so much character development happens in prison compared to just living a normal life. So if you can, embrace discomfort, embrace stress, embrace hard times, embrace risky decisions. If you're young, make risky decisions, do crazy things, chase discomfort. Tell yourself you're gonna go sleep and camp in your car for a week and travel the world in your car, and maybe do a little Uber or DoorDash and just travel the world and be alone and pray to God. Turn off your phone, or at least turn off any, like, data or service so you can't, like, doom scroll on Instagram or something, or YouTube Shorts. Do that, and so it's really going to be good for you. And so with that being said, that's all I have in this video. I know we don't have a journal entry in this one. Like, we usually do journal entries that you guys can respond to in the comments, and so I guess I could just make one up on the spot here. How about for this one, our journal entry for today can be: what struggles have you had in life? Have you been in, that you've had to go through in life? What struggles, and how did it feel when you went through those things and when you didn't have a cope, when you didn't have any way to cope? Maybe your phone was dead, maybe something happened and your phone was dead, or you didn't have any access, or you just couldn't cope with something like corn or junk food or lust or pleasure or any of that stuff. Doom scrolling, you couldn't use those things as a cope, you just had yourself. Maybe you had God. And so talk about how that made you feel, how you felt in that moment. And we're going to close out this video. I hope this video has helped you. If it did, please consider watching some of my other videos. I believe they will help you as well. I love you all so very much, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.